Warehouse automation is more than just robotics. Well, joining us today to speak about that, Jason Joachim, CEO of Cargo Spectre. Jason, it's great to see you once again. Welcome.
Thank you. You too, Russell.
Jason, the title of our talk today, warehouse automation, more than just robotics, kind of indicates there are other types of automation out there. Earlier, you and I were speaking about the importance of robotics. Clearly, it's top of mind for a lot of people, but maybe it's a little bit lower on the totem pole for a number of warehouse operators. Maybe there are some other bits of automation that they might want to consider. So tell us, what exactly is out there that they might want to think about?
Well, thank you, Russell. It's very vast, and it's growing every year. There's more startups, and there's more funding that goes into warehouse technology. And to that end, I could see it being very daunting for a warehouse operator to pick a place to start. There are several initiatives one could start, from robotics to AI, to predictive analytics from that AI, all the way to something as simple as just conveyors. It depends how complicated you want to get and where the savings really is per dollar.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would imagine it also depends upon exactly what your specific needs are, what exactly is going on in your warehouse operation. How do you manage to make these disparate systems speak to one another, cooperate with one another?
Well, that goes back to having a really good tech team at first. If you have a really good tech team, they're going to approach that project in an open source format where it's very easy to integrate, get the data, and it's not held for ransom, or it's not kept to one company to dominate that space. So having a published API, for instance, or having multiple ways to get the data for someone as small as a mom and pop that doesn't have an onboard technology staff that can do developments for them, all the way to a big company that has their own in-house development team, making all of those APIs and the ease of making that available to that spread is really, I think, where the secret sauce is.
You know, when you mention mom and pop operations all the way to a very large company, clearly we're talking about different capabilities. And we don't want to diminish the importance of AI and robotics and that sort of thing, but what if you are not ready to implement that kind of technology? What kind of automation should you definitely be looking at?
Well, the first thing you need to do is go out into your warehouse and identify where the biggest most costly pressure point is. That is always going to be first. And then the next thing you can do, before even picking a vendor, is talk to your warehouse staff about what they do every day. Because there seems to be always a disconnect between management sometimes and what the actual warehouse operator has to do every day. And that's going to give you some really good feedback as to where you should start. There's a ton of low-hanging fruit in this space. You don't have to start with robots.
Well, let's talk just a moment or two about some of that low-hanging fruit. What might that be?
It can be anything from as simple, as I mentioned, to conveyors, that you don't need as many forklift operators to move freight around a large complex. It can be something as dimensioning systems. It can be something as simple as just having two systems talk to each other. Mm-hmm. So that way a human isn't having to take data from one system and put it into another with the chance of messing that up.
Okay, one of the questions I would imagine that a viewer might have right now is, talk to me, Jason, about the benefits that I'm going to receive once I implement the kind of technology you're talking about. Tell me also about the hurdles I'm likely, or may at least, encounter. What would you tell the viewer?
Well, the answer to that, Russell, is twofold. As far as the benefits, it really depends on the analysis you did at first. That's really where you're going to see the most, if you did it right, you're going to see the most benefit. And that can be anything from time savings to accuracy in the data that you're collecting at the warehouse level, all the way to that data propagating out to invoicing and how you're invoicing for that data. So the benefits can go anywhere from time spent in the warehouse to the accounting department being able to generate more revenue per an invoice and it be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
The challenges one can face are actually doing the analysis correct first. If you don't get the right feedback, or you get a biased feedback, then obviously the whole chain from there is going to be skewed. The other challenge after implementation is going to be the long-term support. How do you keep these projects going over the next 10 years so you don't have to spend a lot of time making another big pivot? And that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Jason, we've talked about the various technologies that one might implement, the automation that you might put into your space. We've talked about benefits, we talked about hurdles. It's a lot of information that you've given the viewer. Tell them this, precisely where do you start?
The best start's going to be at your warehouse floor. That's where the most time, that's where the most mistakes, that's where everything happens first. From there, every other automation, every other initiative you have to make your warehouse a futuristic warehouse will fall into place if the warehouse is acting right first.
Good information, good information. Listen, it dawns on me that perhaps some of the folks who are watching the video may not be familiar with Cargo Spectre. So if you would take a moment and just tell us a little something about the company's focus. What does it do? How is it enhancing the operations of your client base? What would you say?
Our main focus is providing our customers a way to get dimensions, weights, and pictures for their operation. That can be a freight forwarder who wants to charge based on those dim weights, or a carrier. That can be a manufacturer that wants to catch a lot of those reclass fees and do business in a smoother fashion without having to put a lot of investment onto the warehouse floor.
Great information, Jason. Great information indeed. Thank you for finding the time to speak with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell.
It's Jason Joachim, Cargo Spectre, speaking with us today about robotics and the various other types of automation in your warehouse. Thanks for watching.